Hey everyone, today for the channel we are featuring a 2023 BMW M340i. I've been just so excited to drive one of these ever since they came out. I feel like they're a nice bridge between total crazy psychopath with the M3 and then just the standard 3 Series BMW. So before we begin this drive, let's take a look at the exterior of the car. So as you can see here, we have just the standard black car. Obviously in the front we have these gorgeous LED daytime running lights with the updated BMW logo. And so when you're looking at a front end of one of these BMW M340i's, of course there's no M badging, but as you can tell we actually have these hexagon little pattern in our kidney grille, whereas the standard 3 Series is just a straight vertical line. So the side profile of this BMW M340i is quite handsome. Of course, we have these big, huge, meaty brakes, M Sport brakes, of course. We have some all-season Pirellis on this car. They are 225 width. And then in the back, this is where the car probably has the most aggressive styling with these gorgeous kind of blacked out taillights and dual exhaust pipes. And then last but not least, we have our M340i badging. Overall, a very well designed car, and I feel like this one gets a lot less flack than the G80 M3 does for its styling, which of course has been quite polarizing for some. While we're back here, let's check out the trunk. As you can see, we have plenty of room, and we also have rear folding seats, so we get full access to the cabin of the car if we want to throw, say, a ladder in here. And the best part about this trunk is actually we have a little spot to grab, so we don't have to dirty the exterior of the car to close the trunk. So getting into these back seats, as you can see, we have a decent amount of room. I have about 3 inches of clearance for my head, and about 4 inches sitting behind my passenger for my legs. Sitting behind myself, I'd probably have about the same amount here. And so this isn't the most roomy sedan. Of course, if you got the 5 Series, you'd have a little more cabin space in the rear seats. But we do have our own climate control. We have 2 USB-C ports. And of course, we have vents and speakers back here, along with these little cargo nets. So before we get started on our drive, some things to talk about in this interior. So of course this car is just absolutely loaded with tech. We have a wireless charger here, tons of ports, one here, along with a 12 volt. And then in here we have a USB-C. So basically you have plenty of charging if you need to. So flipping this car into reverse, of course you have your standard rear backup camera, which is pretty high resolution. And then we also have a bird's eye view, which is going to be very helpful for getting into tight spots. And then we also have a backup assistant. I haven't really used that yet. And of course car wash mode, because you want to protect those sensors and cameras. And then so you can make the rear camera your full view. And we actually have a front camera too. I can't figure out how to activate it as far as buttons, but if you're approaching something that's getting really close in the front, it's actually going to pop up automatically, so you don't really need to worry too much about that. And then of course we have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in this car, and you're going to use those a whole lot. But we also have climate settings that, you know, obviously are going to be integrated into the screen because we don't really have a lot of physical buttons in here at all. Of course you can use this scrolly wheel to navigate your infotainment screen, but I've found it's actually easier if you just press the buttons rather than using the scrolly wheel, just because of how big the screen is and how many things they try to fit onto it. So this car has 3 drive modes. We have Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. Sport does have a Sport Plus and an Individual, which you can customize things like your transmission settings, your steering, etc. But I think my favorite way to drive this car is to put it in Sport, and then have the manual option to use my paddle shifters. And so let's get on the road. So this 2023 BMW M340i has the B58 BMW engine in it, which has gotten a lot of attention and clout for being quite good, actually. And so it makes 382 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, and of course this is an inline 6-cylinder turbocharged engine. And so paired to this engine is the ZF 8-speed automatic, which is quite good. As you can see, you can downshift, get into that power band really quickly, and this car just does it all really well. It's very capable. The automatic transmission works really well. It's quite snappy. My one critique about it is these paddle shifters are actually wheel mounted instead of column mounted. And so basically the gripe of that being when you wheel mount paddle shifters and you're doing hand over hand turns, you have to look for the paddle, whereas if it's column mounted, you always know where that paddle is. And so my fiance and I did a little road trip down here to Newport, Rhode Island. So if you see the scenery is a bit different than our usual route, that is why. So going down here, we averaged about 31 miles per gallon. And overall, this BMW is supposed to be fuel efficient because it's a daily driver to a lot of people. And so, getting about 30 miles a gallon is really good for a car that makes this type of power. So as far as interior impressions, this car is very sound inside. You don't get a lot of the wind noise on the highway or the road noise from the tires. There's quite a bit of sound deadening, and that's probably why this car is 3,900 pounds, along with, of course, that all-wheel drive system. So throwing this car back into automatic mode and comfort, the entire characteristic of the car changes. The automatic transmission starts to really behave itself, keeps you lower in the RPMs, allowing a more comfortable and quiet ride. And so what's great about this BMW M340i is it can really be whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be rowdy and to have a little bit of fun, you can do that. If you want it to just be a comfortable highway cruiser, it does that really well as well. And so this BMW M340i is priced just roughly around $65,000 brand new. I think these are a great used bargain because you can get one with around 20,000 miles for roughly around $45,000 US. And so that'll get you a very capable car with all-wheel drive, fairly fuel efficient at 30 miles a gallon, and of course get you tons of performance from this inline 6. And so talking a little bit more on this interior, we don't have a lot of buttons, as I said before, but we do have our climate control, which is pretty easy to access by just hitting this menu here. We have dual climate control, and of course most of our settings here are going to be for the front two passengers, including the direction of the air, our heated seats, and of course fan speed. As far as steering wheel buttons, we have our cruise control built right in here to the left side of the steering wheel, and then on the right we have our call button, as well as a little scrolly wheel to control what we see in our front here gauge cluster. So although I don't mind the screens in the daytime, I did drive this car a little bit at night, and with the ambient lighting and the screens on full brightness, I just kind of felt like I was part of a circus. I needed to turn down the brightness of the screens, turn off the ambient lighting, and that's just, my personal preference. Everyone's mileage may vary. Some people might like all those lights, but I don't necessarily go for them. So although we don't have it on right now, we also have a heads-up display which can show things such as your current destination, your current speed, and also the speed in the area in which you are. I didn't like having the heads-up display on. I just feel like it's another thing to distract you from the road. Maybe that's just because I'm a little bit of a purist. So we also have the auto start stop function when you come to a stop in this car. If you keep the car in sport mode though, it'll actually never turn off the engine, which is nice. But I found if I keep it in comfort, I can't find a way to permanently turn auto start stop on. And you know, so that's actually one of the big debates in the car world right now, is that manufacturers are automatically putting that in, so you can never permanently turn it off. You have to turn it off every time you get in the car. And that's going to be a little bit troublesome for a lot of people, because if you forget and then of course it's on, you come to a stop, it's just going to be a little bit of an annoyance to get that car back running before you make your way away from the light. So BMW's always been kind of a difference maker as far as the gear selectors in cars, but this one's especially weird. So we have just this little knob. You know, BMW used to have that little gear selector where you push it, it kind of comes back to its current spot, instead of, say, you know, a gear selector in a Honda Civic where it has a path that it follows. And so now we just have this little knob, which takes some getting used to. I will say that it doesn't make an entire you know, difference in your driving experience. You're going to, you know, be able to get into gear just fine, and you're going to get used to it in just maybe even in like a day of driving the car, so it's not really a big deal. And so if you wanted to, you know, obviously shift the car from this little gear selector, I haven't found a way that you can do that. I don't think that's a thing. You just basically have access to the paddles, and that's that. And you have access to the paddles even if you don't have it in the in the manual select mode. You can actually just kind of downshift on your own, and then it'll return to its automatic driving mode when it feels like you're done shifting the car. And so this BMW M340i has been out for a few years now. And of course there are some subtle changes they made from, say, 2021 to the now present day car being 2025. And so the main difference that I've noticed so far is that they had two screens, one for your gauge cluster and another for your infotainment, and they have kind of now mashed those together. And a similar change was made to the Elantra N for the same year, being 21, well, for 22 into 24 and 25. So I just think that's funny that they both kind of made that transition into one long screen at the same time. So some of the other standard features in this BMW M340i is this gorgeous panoramic sunroof we have above us. Of course, it opens in just a tilt, or you can have it slide back and really give you some more air inside this cabin. And so I actually really like it. It doesn't have any wind buffeting noise or anything like that. It's a pretty standard sunroof that works really well. And so we also have 4 automatic window switches. They go up and down on their own by just one single click. You don't have to hold anything. We also have a really great speaker system in here. I think overall it projects noise really well, and of course you can change, you know, the amount of bass or treble. You can fine-tune your audio system to your own preferences in your infotainment screen. So as far as buttons, everything is of high quality in here. We were getting some rattling in our drive earlier, which I found was actually a leaf stuck in the little portion where the HVAC inlet is. Going back to talking about the ambient lighting in here, we have plenty of different colors you can choose from to, you know, your own personal preference. We actually liked the rose pink color. We thought that was a nice touch with these lovely brown seats. And so overall, spending, you know, about 2 days with this car, I really enjoyed my time with it. It's quite quick, it's really comfortable. It drives on the highway really well in the sense that, you know, you can get up to, say, even like 90 miles an hour, especially, you know, in Mexico, wink, wink, and be able to drive that very comfortably. You know, the suspension tuning in this car is just absolutely fantastic. And I think that if you were to buy one of these, you would have a great daily driver and a phenomenal weekend car too. So with that being said, I wouldn't buy one of these if you're looking for a solely focused sports car. In my opinion, the steering is just a little light for me. I feel like there's not really any sort of road feel. And although this isn't a solely focused sports car, you will still have plenty of fun. We have tons of power in this car, lots of performance, and really with this awesome all-wheel drive system, it's very confidence inspiring, where really, you know, a not so experienced driver can get in one of these and have an absolute blast, and you know, the car will compensate for a lot of your poor decision making and really keep you safe while also having a fun time. So with that being said, if you're looking for a fun daily driver with lots of luxury options, look no further. These BMW M340i's are absolutely fantastic. We've loved the 2 days we've had in this car, and I'm sure you would as well. So with that being said, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you all next time on Auto Joe. Bye-bye.